Right, go ahead.
It continued on, slammed into a tree, and it looks like it hit a parked car, or came very close to a parked car. As Baldwin Park approaches the vehicle, flashlights shining in there, making sure there's nobody else inside that truck. Canine units clearing the vehicle as that pickup truck finally came to its rest up on the curb, hitting that tree there at Walnut and Benwood. The suspect in custody, one driver taken in here after a dramatic end to this wild chase, Mark.
It was 4:14 a.m. on a Tuesday in the exclusive enclave of military housing, where the grass is as disciplined as the residents. The FBI didn't just knock, they dismantled a legacy. The target wasn't a mid-level smuggler or street-level distributor. It was a three-star general, a man who sat in briefings where the survival of federal agents was the primary topic. As flashbangs illuminated the foyer, investigators weren't just looking for contraband, they were looking for a betrayal. On the kitchen island, amidst the normal domesticity of a family home, sat a modified encrypted device and a stack of printed patrol schedules for the southwest border, schedules that weren't due to be public for another 3 months. The general, standing in his robe, watched as decades of decorated service evaporated in the blue and red glare of the sirens.
They are our first line of defense, and to continue to support the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection, because they really are, as I just said, the first line of defense. And when we have threats from, organizations from other countries, this is serious. This is real law enforcement, keeping Americans and America safe.
Before we peel back the layers of this command-level infiltration, look at your screen. 88% of you watching this right now are the ones who notice when the system blurs the lines, yet you haven't hit that subscribe button. If you value accountability over optics and want the clinical truth behind these crime news headlines, join us. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You aren't just following a channel, you're joining an investigative community. Done. Let's look at the moment the stars fell. What investigators found in that pre-dawn darkness didn't just point to a lapse in judgment, it pointed to a private intelligence service operated from within the Pentagon's own orbit. But to understand the gravity, we have to look at the power flip, the exact moment the protector became the predator. We expect a certain hierarchy of crime. We expect the cartel to be the outside threat. But in this case, the dynamic was inverted.
Now, in response, agents are being warned to remain hyper-vigilant, closely monitor their surroundings, and wear their body armor at all times, regardless of assignment or patrol area. And of course, Nicole, this alert really underscores.
According to federal indictments, the Sinaloa Cartel didn't have to bypass U.S. intelligence. They had a subscription to it. The power flip occurred during a coded exchange captured by a DEA wiretap 6 months prior. A handler in Culiacan asked for the weather report. The general didn't provide a forecast. He provided the GPS coordinates and shift changes of 14 federal agents operating in the high-risk sector of Arizona. In that moment, the general wasn't a commander. He was an asset. The reversal was total. The very strategic visibility granted to him to close the border was being used to create invisible lanes for high-value shipments. The authority designed to save lives was being liquidated for cartel currency. To the casual observer, this looks like a sudden fall from grace. But as an analytical documentary, we have to look at the pattern.
But you see the takedown here that's imminent right there. And down he goes. Baldwin Park police able to finally catch their suspect and bring him to heel. But as we mentioned, that car, the pickup truck did continue down the street, hit some trash cans and then a tree.
History tells us that command-level corruption is rarely a bug. It's often a feature of unmonitored access. Notice what happens when we look back 18 months. This general began requesting off-cycle briefings on surveillance patterns that fell outside his direct command. Then there was the sudden liquidation of 3 private properties and the opening of several consulting LLCs in Panama. This follows the betrayal blueprint we saw in the cases of Garcia Luna and other high-level officials. It starts with small favors, a map here, a sensor location there, until the subject is so entangled that the only way out is to give them everything. The FBI raid was simply the final chapter of a book that had been being written in secret for over 2 years. Let's talk about the receipts, the undeniably devastating facts that make this more than just an alleged scandal. Among the items seized during the FBI and DEA raid were a series of handwritten notebooks. In them, the general hadn't just listed names, he had analyzed the psychological profiles of the the 14 compromised agents. He was telling the Sinaloa Cartel which agents were hard and which ones could be convinced. The most damning evidence? A direct quote from an encrypted message found on the general's drive. The 3 a.m. drone sweep is being redirected for maintenance. The lane is open for 45 minutes. This wasn't hearsay. This was a command-level directive to leave the gate unlocked. While the general was publicly advocating for border security, his own financial records showed a private intelligence service payout that exceeded his military salary by 400%. Why does this keep working? Why does a man who has everything, rank, pension, honor, risk it all for a cartel handler? Let's break the fourth wall. It's the God complex of access. When you spend 20 years in rooms where your word is law, you begin to feel that the rules are for the people you command, not for you. The cartel doesn't just buy information, they buy the ego of the person holding it. If you're starting to see the pattern behind the medals, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this community demands substance over sensationalism. If we reach 10,000 likes on this report, we'll do a deep dive into the 14 agents who were exposed. Don't let the truth get buried in the feed. Lock it in by subscribing. The general fell into the same trap as many before him. He believed his strategic visibility made him invisible to the investigators. He forgot that in a digital age, every footprint, even a 3-star one, leaves a shadow. If we zoom out, this isn't just a military corruption scandal. It's a crisis of intelligence integrity. When the Sinaloa Cartel infiltrates a general, they aren't just smuggling substances, they are smuggling influence. They are proving that the most fortified border in the world has a command-level backdoor. And connect this to the broader media psychology. We are taught to look at the fence, the drones, and the patrols. We aren't taught to look at the man holding the remote control. This creates a systemic vulnerability where the operational picture of our national security is sold to the highest bidder. It elevates the conversation from a crime report to an intellectual analysis of how power, when unmonitored, becomes a commodity. As the FBI tactical teams cleared that residence, they found a small framed photo on the general's desk, him standing with the very agents he had allegedly compromised. It is a chilling juxtaposition. The mentor and the betrayer captured in the same frame. The fallout of this FBI raid is still widening. The 14 federal agents have been pulled from the field, their safety permanently altered. The decorated legacy is now a federal case file. The sharpest insight here is that the most dangerous breach isn't a hole in a fence. It's a hole in the character of those we trust to guard it. The stars on a shoulder don't light the way. They just make the shadow of betrayal that much longer. That brings us to our question for the day. In an era of high-tech surveillance, can we ever truly monitor the people who own the monitors? At what point does strategic visibility become a liability? If you value accountability and believe that rank is not a shield for corruption, then you belong here. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best thank you for the work we put into these deep dives. We don't just report the news, we analyze the breach. I'm Crime Scope, and this is the analytical documentary on the betrayal at the border. We'll see you in the next investigation.